All right, well, good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us here today on a beautiful spring day. Obviously, when you look all around our city right now, you see all kinds of signs of growth and progress that are taking place in Louisville, and many of our Metro folks here had a lot to do with that. So I want to thank everybody for the wonderful job on that. When you think about the last 5 or 6 years in the community and the kind of growth that has taken place, our job is to keep it going. We've created over 63,000 new jobs, or at least we haven't, but we created platforms for that. And we can see all the construction going on around the city right now with over $9 billion in capital construction taking place. So there's lots of signs of prosperity all around us, which is good for all Louisvillians. But it's not just good enough to grow kind of the macro number, the big picture. We've got to make sure that we grow the right way in our city. Last year, our city was honored to join 100 Resilient Cities, which is an initiative supported by the Rockefeller Foundation. And 100 Resilient Cities defines resilience as, quote, the capacity of individuals, communities, institutions, businesses, and systems within a city to survive, adapt, and grow, no matter what kind of chronic stresses and acute shocks that they experience. So through our long history, Louisville's been no stranger to chronic stresses and acute shocks, from inequity that you see all over the country and in cities today to natural disasters like the 1937 flood that redefined our city. And throughout this time, we've shown ourselves to be resilient in the face of these challenges. But I'd like to think, well, I know that we can always do better. We can certainly do better when we've got a great plan. And that's why our city was among 1,000 to apply to join 100 Resilient Cities, and why we were really honored to be chosen for that. So as part of the 100 Resilient Cities process, hundreds of community leaders gathered in January to explore our city's strengths and challenges. So doing the pre-work, if you will, to launch our plan. And we asked our citizens to help figure out what resilience means for Louisville. And from that, we determined 3 points of focus. Number one, the challenges of Louisville's built environment. Number two, environmental and sustainability issues to help our city grow smart and grow healthy. And then number three, individual resilience challenges, so both economic and social, that stand between Louisvillians and the opportunities that they deserve. So with support from 100 Resilient Cities, Louisville now will begin developing a resiliency strategy that includes specific assertive steps to strengthen our city and address those 3 areas I just spoke about. So this process will allow our city to better endure and rebound from chronic stresses and acute shocks in the economy, and with equity and sustainability also. So today we're going to announce a few organizational changes related to this. So first off, I'm pleased to announce that Eric Friedlander will guide these efforts as our new Chief Resiliency Officer. So this is Eric Friedlander right back here. Thank you, Eric, for stepping up. So in this new role, Eric will work across city government and collaborate with community partners to create and implement a resilience strategy. So in his time as the director of the city's Department of Community Services, Eric has proven himself time and time again to be a capable administrator and a super thoughtful leader. Eric came to Metro from the State Cabinet for Health and Family Services about 1.5 years ago, and previously directed the state's efforts for helping children with special health needs. Eric's career is a career of compassion, precisely the right mindset and skill set we need for building upon our city's resiliency. So Eric, could you say a few words for us?
Thank you, Mayor. It's an honor to serve in your administration, and it's an honor to be selected as the Chief Resilience Officer for Louisville. Thank you. So, as the Mayor said, shocks are inevitable. I remember where I was on April 3rd, 1974. I remember the next day riding my bicycle around Cherokee Park. I remember the day when the sewers blew up in Louisville. So, how does a city respond to that? How does Louisville not just bounce back, but bounce back stronger? That's the resilience question that we're all going to answer together. Being a part of the 100 Resilient Cities Network will bring the expertise of global partnerships and resources to Louisville's issues. 100 Resilient Cities was born out of corporate concerns around climate change. Their greatest strengths relate to the environment, infrastructure, and cross-sector planning. However, it has been clear since they began with their first cities, these shocks and stresses fall the hardest on the most vulnerable populations in society. Just think of the city of New Orleans and the impacts of Katrina to think about how that plays out. That's why today's announcement of the city's first chief equity officer is so very important. At the agenda-setting workshop in January, we discussed the stresses that divide us as a community, west from south from east, violence, and the challenges of substance use across the community. It is clear from so many different perspectives, including resilience, that the better connected and more equitable we are as a community, the more resilient we will be to the shocks and stresses we face. The better and more green we can design our city and infrastructure, the more resilient we will be. 100 Resilient Cities does not pretend to have the answers for Louisville. Neither do I. That's why there's a robust process for community engagement. Because of the agenda-setting workshop, we have a great starting point. The next step is to validate and further capture the work already done, because it's important to acknowledge our ongoing initiatives and great strengths. The next phase will, over the next few months, identify with the community the discovery areas we will address. After that, strategies and implementation plans will be developed with and alongside all parts of Louisville. Finally, I would be remiss if I did not say, without equity, without compassion, there can be no resilience. So, thank you, Mayor, for this opportunity.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Eric. Eric's going to do a great job. Everybody that's worked with him here knows how capable he is, and your leadership is really appreciated. I have people walk up to me all the time that work with you and say, thank you for hiring Eric Friedlander. So we look forward to your expanded role here with the city. And we're really just delighted to be part of 100 Resilient Cities. Where we have learned the fastest in terms of our administration here has been when we've joined with cohorts of other cities around a common curriculum, whether it be Bloomberg, Brookings, et cetera, so that we can bounce learnings off of each other. And so certainly that comes with the 99 other cities with 100 Resilient Cities. Then it also comes with a global network of resources that are global operators that are scanning resilience challenges in different cities around the world, so that we now have access to them as part of this network to help us accelerate improvement in our community as well. So it's an extraordinary opportunity for us to advance with resilience. And obviously, when we think about kind of the broad buckets we're talking about here, we're talking about environmental resilience, but we're also talking about human resilience. And human resilience, especially through the lens of equity and access, is really the issue of the day in our country. It's the issue of our country right now, where you've got a small group of people that are doing really, really well, and you're having more and more people struggling. And that oftentimes falls, as Eric mentioned, in geographically specific areas. I call it the high cost of being poor, where you just keep getting hit by this and that. And so our challenge is to make sure that we're lessening that and improving the opportunity for everybody so that they have a pathway forward. When you think about, and I see Tim Berry here who runs our housing authority, when you think about the opportunity we have in the Russell neighborhood with the Choice Neighborhood Grant, the $29.5 million grant that's going to lever up to a couple $100 million over the next 6 or 7 years, and the opportunity to make that into the most resilient neighborhood in our city, our country, really is the goal, the smartest neighborhood, et cetera. Our challenge as an administration is to work smartly across all of our departments and with our partners in the city to improve resilience and improve equity. And the response that we get day in and day out from folks, whether it's improving our tree canopy or improving financial literacy or decreasing vacant and abandoned properties or using our innovation efforts with cleaning our air, people are doing this good work already. So we're going to be able to integrate that even more closely, learn from other cities, and then have these global resources as well. So it's really, this will go down as a red letter day here for our community with this particular initiative. And then we're amplifying that even further because while our resiliency efforts will focus on strengthening our city against external factors, we know that growing the right way for the city also means that we've always got to be improving what we do as an administration as well. So it's not enough for citizens to have access to opportunity and prosperity. We also need equity. It's my opinion that the riots that have taken place post-Ferguson in the United States are a cry from the street, basically, of people saying, I don't feel hopeful about an equitable future. I don't feel hopeful about a connected future. And I feel like this global economy has moved by much faster than my ability to be a participant in that. And that's whether it's riots or civil unrest on the streets of America or at the ballot box, as we saw in this last presidential election as well. So city governments, state governments, hopefully the federal government, would take on challenges like this to make sure everybody feels like they have a place in the future of our country. So we need equity. And cities obviously are that kind of organizing unit in the country. Cities are a platform to help citizens reach their full human potential. And we can never settle for this to be true in some zip codes, but not others, and to some citizens, but not others because of where they're born or what their skin color might be, what language they may speak, what faith they may believe in. Our city is in contact with citizens at all hours, every day of the year, providing a multitude of services. When you think about it, it's endless, protecting our streets, inspecting our restaurants, recruiting businesses, providing needs to seniors, paving streets. It just goes on and on and on. So the question is, how do you look at all those policies and processes and procedures through the lens of equity? Then this is something that when you take that lens, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the training we've received in that area, you get some real aha moments. So late last year, in order to drive down this path of more equity, the Metro Council approved a suggestion that we made, and a new Chief Equity Officer position was approved to undertake this important work. So today, I'm pleased to announce that Kellie Watson has accepted that position as our Chief Equity Officer. Kellie is another super respected leader in city government. Like Eric, she has the exact skill set and mindset and passion for this job. She previously led our Human Resources Department when my administration started, and our Human Relations Commission, a job obviously where equity is a central concern. And then she also has held top human resources jobs at the state agency level, and that's where we recruited her to come back to Louisville. Most recently, she served as our city's general counsel. So this is a lady with a lot of talents. She understands equity and the details of how this city operates. And that's obviously important because her new role will require taking a critical look at what our city does and what our city will do in the future, and ask a lot of questions. Questions like, does this act, does this policy, does this procedure give everybody a fair shot? And does this align with the best practices of equity? It's a big job, it's a new job, so it's kind of like being an entrepreneur. And Kellie will rely on the deep knowledge that she already has of our city's inner workings to help elevate Louisville Metro into even a more equitable government. So Kellie, if you would say a few words with us. Kellie Watson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for this opportunity to do this work that I've been really passionate about my whole career. And this is exciting. This is exciting work that Metro is about to take on, and that is to take equity on just head on. We are taking on forces that often limit the potential of people to hold them back from their own successes, from achieving the best that they have, and in some cases, even just providing for basic living. And that is barriers to their own successes, barriers that will prevent them from even just providing for their families in some cases. And these are barriers that are built into government. Government, we have to remember, has always been a part of building those barriers, and that is systematic barriers, barriers that have placed people historically just providing desperate and discrimination in places that just have always been there. And now we are in a position to take those barriers and look at those, and also look internally at ourselves, at the biases that we have, and break those down. We are going to look at those and dismantle those. We're going to look at our policies, we're going to look at our procedures, we're going to look at what we do, how we do it, and kind of break those down. We've started doing those, as the mayor said, when we had our retreat last year. We are part of a cohort of other cities working with the Governmental Alliance on Race and Equity, and like I said, it is a pleasure to be able to do that now, to continue that work, and I look forward to doing it and working with everyone in this room and with our governmental partners and with Metro Council, and continuing that on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kellie. I don't know if I see Dr. Kellie Pryor here, but I also want to thank Dr. Brandy Kellie Pryor. She runs our Center for Health Equity, which I think everybody realizes we're the first city in the country to have a Center for Health Equity. And Dr. Kellie Pryor is also leading our work with GARE, the Government Alliance on Race and Equity. So that's the training, some of the training that we're receiving that will help guide some of the work that we're doing. So kudos to Brandy, we appreciate her. Now, Kellie and Eric occupied vital positions in our city that I'm filling immediately, so they're changing positions. So first off, as I mentioned, one of Kellie's current roles is she's the general counsel for the city, which obviously is a huge job. So I'd like to announce Jeff Mosley, who could not be here today. He's on a family obligation. But Jeff Mosley will be the city's new general counsel. Jeff is already with us, an extraordinary professional. Jeff has shown diligence and strong leadership in our economic development efforts, most recently as the deputy chief of Louisville Forward, and he's held the general counsel position at the state agency level as well, so he knows the ropes. But when you think about the major deals that are going on around the city and how they're getting done and what the background for all that legal work is, Jeff is in the middle of each and every one of those and has just demonstrated himself at the state level and the city level to be an extraordinary professional. So I'm really happy that he's agreed to join us as our general counsel. Mary Ellen Wiederwall is here, who is the chief of Louisville Forward. So thank you for giving us your deputy chief there, but he will continue to serve the city in a great fashion. So thank you to Jeff Mosley. Also, the new director of community services, which we will rename the Department of Resilience and Community Services, will be a familiar, great face. And so I'm pleased to announce our new director for that agency, and that is Gena Redmon, who's with us here today. Gena, I'm so happy for you. If you ever want to have fun, schedule some time with Gena and go out in the field and interact with our citizens. And we had the opportunity to do that not too long ago. It was on Thanksgiving Day, wasn't it? Thanksgiving Day. And boy, you will see government efficiency in action. And it is just, and you do it with such a personable way. Everybody wants to be around you. So thank you. So that's the heart. But then when you think about, how we serve professionally as well, Gena has served in leadership positions in the community services, including currently deputy director. So this department provides vital services to citizens in need, and we know that it's going to continue to do this important work in your trusted hands. So Gena, if you could share a few words with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate the opportunity to be here on today. I'm excited about my new role as the Director of Community Services. I'm really excited about the fact that I still have Eric as my chief, so we still will be able to communicate together. I'm excited about the continued work that Community Services continues to do. Every day, we're out there fighting poverty. Every day, we help the citizens that are most vulnerable. Every day, we have staff that is hitting the ground running, trying to help those who cannot overcome certain obstacles. So I'm really excited about being the leader of this effort. I'm really excited about being here with you all on today. If I had my last words to say, because that is true, I do like to talk, but my last words to say to everyone that is here in this room today is something that my mom used to tell me, something that I've always told my sons as well. Effort creates ability. Let's get to work. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Gena says this has been going on for too long, this particular press conference. So I appreciate that. There's a lot of work to do. So I want to congratulate, once again, Jeff, Eric, Kellie, Gena. These are really important posts for us. So and it's been fun just to see everybody grow and do better and better for our citizens every day. I see our Chief of Staff here and Deputy Mayor Ellen Hessen is here. Ellen is super behind-the-scenes person, but she helps really pull all this together. So Ellen, thank you for the great job that you do day in and day out as well. All right, well, so with that, I wish everybody a happy Easter weekend. And if there's any questions on this, we'll be happy to take them.
Mayor, you already hit on this indirectly, but last night there were 4 homicides in Louisville. How are these newly named people going to affect the violence that's going on in our city? Things like what happened last night, 4 homicides.
Yeah, obviously last night was a very difficult and tragic night for our city with 4 homicides that all are going to have their own stories associated with them. When you talk about the basics of what resilience is, you know, resilience is the ability to lead a productive life. Oftentimes these homicides, what's involved with that are kind of tragedies of woe, many of which you have told. So as we understand each of these, and they're being each independently investigated right now, we'll understand where all this is going to go. We're in budget season right now, so what you'll see in the budget is more resources dedicated to public safety, the Office of Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods. We will continue to investigate our programs and plans that we have in place for improvement. As you know, we've had national experts look at this stuff to see what we're doing well, where we can improve. We're going to continue to do that. And we'll continue to put more resources to our plans and ask citizens to help as well. One of the things behind each and every one of these homicides, you know, somebody knows what's happened. And the sooner we can find that, the better. So, man, I wish there was an easy answer to it. But clearly, when we are building long-term capacity for the city, I mean, that's what today is about. And then you have the, you know, short-term real stuff that happens day in and day out that we've got to fight from a kind of enforcement perspective.
I wonder if Eric or Kellie or Gena has ideas about if they would like to speak on that topic too, if any of them would like to step forward, and just how they think they can make a difference and stop things like what happened last night at 4 in one night.
Yeah, I don't know that they know the details behind it, but certainly the work of what Gena does with poverty reduction, if you want to speak about that.
Yes. I'm just going to say this. One of the things that we need to do as a country, as a nation, is to put resources around folks where resilience is occurring, where we get to the root cause. I believe that due to, and I don't know the specific situations around anything that happened on last night, but I do feel in my heart of hearts that if we put certain services around folks where when they're in crisis, they're able and they know where to go to get that help and the things that they need so that they can bounce back and do the things in a proper way. I think that we'll get to a place where we're able to conquer some of those things that is going on.
Sure. My perspective is this, again, not knowing the details, but we didn't get here overnight. These issues are complex. How we work in neighborhoods and communities, who's the first responder in resilience? It's your neighbor. If you can feel comfortable going outdoors and responding in disaster, that's really the first level of resilience. So working on plans is not very sexy, but it is how you plan to address, how over the long term, since the 1930s we've had redlining, right? So how we start to address this over time is how we begin to work our way out of some of the tragic things that have happened last night. So I think all of us working together, because it's not going to be one person, it's going to be all of us working together. That's how we're going to make a difference, and it will take time.
Right. What I was going to respond to was basically what Eric said. If you're looking at economic equity, if you're looking at where people are living, you want to make sure that resources are in every zip code that someone can respond to. And so that would be what I would look at, is making sure that all the departments are responsive at the same time, that we've got policies in place, that everything is distributable at the same time.
Mayor Fischer, the average person at home probably doesn't know this, but it seems to be a trend going on across the country. Do you worry that there's a lot of concern in the city, and what message would you send to the citizens here?
Well, I certainly hear more and more about it, and you're right. 3/4 of American cities are going through increase in homicides. We're about flat where we were compared to last year. Last year, obviously, was a 50% increase over the year prior to that. And so most of these, a lot of these have some things in common. About 2/3 to 70% of them, there's illegal drug activity involved with them. Another 20% or so are domestic violence related. And then the other 10% are just unusual type of things that unfortunately happen. So the message, to folks is, if, you're not involved with illegal activity, your odds for getting involved with something like this are very low. I mean, domestic violence is a whole nother situation. So if you feel like you're in a domestic violence situation, you need to get out of that. You need to contact resources for help. So it's very individual, and most of these are geographically concentrated. Last night's were 4 different locations that we normally don't see as well. So it all goes back to how you're living your individual life, to me, and what kind of path that you're on. So we've got all kinds of data, as you know, to take a look at it and explain a lot of this. But for most folks, you just got to say, how am I living my life? These are not random acts of violence that are taking place. They're very specific.
Any other topics, guys?
Mayor, you had some high praise for Dr. Hargens last night on Twitter. For those folks that aren't on social media, could you underscore that praise?
Yeah, being the superintendent of public schools is a super difficult job. The average tenure of a public school superintendent in this country is 3 years. Think about that. Dr. Hargens has been JCPS's superintendent for 6 years. So we've worked with her as a strategic partner over those 6 years, particularly as it relates to our cradle to career progress, which is not just about the academic performance of kids, but it's also about putting social services around kids that are in need in terms of mental and emotional support services. And she has just been there every time that we've called on JCPS to be part of this. So, and we've made progress in that area. So it's a tough job, and it's the school board's call on where they feel like they need to go and when they need to make a decision. So, and she is a wonderful, classy, intelligent lady as well. So, she's she's put her heart and soul into this business, and I think when you talk to people around the community, they recognize just kind of the goodness that she has as a human being. And so she'll be successful no matter where she's at, and she's done a nice job while she's been.